morning, students. Welcome to the presentation. My name is Iol Cc Eb Lols11, and I will be taking you through LOLS, that is Life Orientation Life Skills 11 for DPPE and BES. As I have indicated, that's my name, Iol Cc Eb Lols11. And first of all, before we go into details, I would like to take you through the action verbs. The action verbs are the verbs that are used in order to construct a to construct a question, be it in the assignment or in the examination. We usually use the action verbs, and these are guiding verbs that you should know, that you should understand their meanings. Once you understand the meanings of these verbs, it will be easier for you to give the correct answer, because sometimes the question is asking you to describe, but we end up mentioning if you have not mastered the action verbs. So therefore it's quite necessary for us to go through these verbs one by one. Then you can have a clear picture or an understanding of what each verb means. In this way you will be able to tackle or to answer the questions as per requirements. Okay, let's start with the word analyze. If you are required to analyze, what you are exactly doing is to examine information in detail. So you have to go in details when you are to answer that question if it asks you to analyze. And calculate, this actually does not really happen in LOLS or life orientation life skills, but just for you to be on the lookout. If the question is requiring you to calculate, then what you are doing is you are giving a numerical answer from given figures, if there are figures provided. And the other verb is comment. If you are commenting, what are you actually doing? You are required to discuss briefly by giving positive and negative. So you have to concentrate on two, because you are commenting, you are giving your comments, positive and negative, but you have to do it in a brief manner. Compare. If you are comparing, of course, you are drawing a conclusion about the similarities and differences. So if you are making a comparisons, you give similarities as well as differences of a certain phenomenon. Okay, and moving on with other verbs, the action verbs, contrast. If you are contrasting, so in this case you are only required to give only the similarities. That's basically all. While if the question has asked you to criticize, in this case what you are doing is you give a reasonable judgment after making weighing of different facts. You weigh the facts, and then thereafter you give the reasonable judgment based on the facts, but you have to do it very, very carefully. Deduce. What are you doing if you are deducing? If the question asks you to deduce, definitely what you are doing here, use the information provided in order to conclude or to come to the conclusion. So you utilize the information at your disposal, and then you come to the conclusion. Define. This is very, very common in any question paper or in any assignment. So you will be required to give the definition of certain words. So remember, when you are defining here, you are giving the precise. You don't have to beat around the bush and bring unnecessary examples and unnecessary information. So here you are simply giving a brief meaning and features. We continue with the action verbs. A question can also ask you to demonstrate. What are you doing? You are required to show by examples. As simple as that. Show by examples. You must make sure that you have provided examples as much as possible. And then the description. Describe, and this is also quite common verb that's used in order to construct a question in an assignment or in an exam. There's no way you can escape away from this. So therefore, if you are to describe, you are going to provide detailed features for and against. You are giving detailed. Remember, detailed. So you are going into details by providing features that are for and against that particular phenomenon. And then we move on to the word or the verb determine. If the question asks you to determine, then you should use provided information in order to work out the answer. The information is given, so what you are going to do, you're just going to provide information for you to work out that particular answer. Distinguish. What are you doing? What are you required to do here? You should describe two phenomena clearly, give difference of the two. So if you are distinguishing, you should always be given two phenomena. And what are you doing? So each phenomenon, what you are doing, you give the clear differences for each of the two that are given before you. So there should not be one. If the question is asking you to distinguish, there must be two phenomena. So you look at each phenomenon and then you deal with each, looking at the differences of the two. Some other verbs, ladies and gentlemen. Estimate. You give the impact of something. Very important. Give the impact of something. So that's what it means, estimate. If the question comes, then it says estimate, then obviously what you are doing, you give the impact of something. How impacting is that particular phenomenon? And then evaluate. If you're evaluating, of course, you determine the value of something as per set criteria. So they are already set criteria. So what you are basically doing, you are determining the value of that particular aspect. Okay, explain. This is also one of the popular verb that's used in order to construct a question. So if you are to explain, what you are doing is you have to describe by indicating relationships between things. Very important. You are describing, these words or these verbs, action verbs, they are interrelated. So you must make a distinction between all of them and then see how to deal with each. For example, explain. Now you're saying describe by indicating, but you have to indicate relationships between things. Find, yeah. Calculate, measure, or determine. So that's what the verb is all about. And then we move on to other action verbs. Identify. If you are identifying what you are basically doing, you recognize a name. You don't have to mention a lot. You don't have to explain. But you go to the point. Because what you are doing, you are recognizing and naming particular aspects. Illustrate. Here you have to describe with examples. Describe with examples. Very, very important. And interpret. So when you are interpreting, what are you doing? Describe something. Explain the meaning of graphical information. Explain the meaning of graphical information. We continue. Examine. If you are required, if the question asks you to examine, you have to identify detailed features of something. Detailed features of something. So you are going more in details. Because usually the marks allocation here, you cannot be given one. If you are examining, so there should be a plan of marks that you have to concentrate on in order to satisfy this question. List. If you are listing, very simple. You are simply giving facts, straight, names, objects, etc. Outline. This is also quite popular. Give an overview and indicate the main features. It's two in one. You give an overview and indicate the main features. So that's what the word is guiding us to do. If it comes in exam, then I'm sure you are going to deal with it fairly. Summarize. When you are summarizing, you are focusing on main ideas, but you don't have to give examples. You don't have to give examples because your focus is only on the main ideas. Okay, then we go in details of the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to present to you is not alpha and omega of what is required from you, but these are guidance that you need to follow, and then the rest is up to you, that you can explore more information on what I have provided to you. Okay, so define the word religion. Remember, you go back to the action verbs and find out what does it really mean to define. Then definitely you have to define, you have to give the definition. This is actually in your study guides. Obviously it's not taken from somewhere, but it's taken from your study guides. You go back and see religion. Okay, what is the definition? Are you able to define it? I always tell my students that please don't memorize. Read with understanding, then you will be able to answer the questions theory. But if you just memorize word by word what is the religion, you might miss a point. But once you read and understand what religion is, you will be able to use your own words in order to give the definition, which is fine. And it's a clear testimony that you understand what you have read. Because if you're just lifting, it won't take you anywhere anyhow. You are a teacher to be, or perhaps you're already a teacher. And these are the things that you should, expose yourself to get ready to go into the classroom. Because you cannot go in the classroom and then you are just reading what is written there. But you prepare your lessons, then you go to the classroom, then you know what you are doing because you have a better understanding while you were studying even. Perhaps you are going to be a teacher for life skills or life orientation. So please, I urge you not to memorize, but to have a clear understanding. Mention the most practiced religions in Namibia. They are there. Very straight, simple. Some of you perhaps belong to one of them. Christian, for example. We talk about Baha'i and a lot more. So please go through, have that understanding, make sure that you know. Especially I would like to put an emphasis, you should know the spelling. Because if you don't spell it correctly, it might mean something different, and you are likely not to get the marks because what you are giving is something different. So please, it's quite vital for you to know how to spell these words. Okay. Moving on. Explain the role of religion in society. You are a society member, and if you don't belong to any religion, it's not a problem. But as a student, you should understand what is the role of religion in society. What does it do? So you should be able to explain. And once more, ladies and gentlemen, you should go back, dear teachers, go back to the action verbs, and you should know what does it mean to explain, so that you'll be able to explain the role of religion in society. State the gender roles in a family. Perhaps you are a family member, a family man, a family woman, or perhaps you belong to a family. You should be able to state the gender roles in a family. Gender roles in a family. Okay, explain how to disagree assertively. We all disagree at one point, but do we just disagree and in a process we are hurting others? Quite crucial. You should be able to explain how to disagree assertively in a more democratic, psychological manner without hurting other people. Go back to your books, you'll be able to find disagreeing, or that terminology, disagreeing assertively, and then what it entails, how to disagree assertively. Very important. Moving on. You should be able to outline the 10 God's commandments in the Torah. They are quite clear in your study guides. So please don't leave any stone unturned. You should be able to outline 10 of them. They are only 10, so you should give 10. You should understand each. Not only a mere writing, even though you're just going to list them or to outline them, but it's very, very important also because, as I said, you are a teacher and you will be in a classroom. You'll be able to teach this if you are given a subject that's related to life skills, and this might be in the syllabus. So you should be able to outline all of them. Don't just learn about 5 and then you leave 5. You are expected to know all of these 10 commandments in the Torah. Analyze the importance of emotions and feelings. Are emotions important? Are feelings important? What are their importance? You should be able to analyze. Take note, the verb analyze. What are you expected to do? Analyze the importance of emotions and feelings. Okay, so they are important after all. Okay, explain a win-win attitude among people. Because wherever you are, you find yourself. Let's say you are a teacher and there is an HOD. If there is a disagreement between the two of you, the bottom line is you should reach a positive conclusion at the end of the day, because you cannot hold grudges against someone forever. So, but the focal point is there should be a win-win attitude among people between the two of you. Win-win attitude, not one-way traffic. This is a two-way traffic. In any situation that you find yourself, in a classroom, in a staff room, with your staff members, or maybe with parents, the issue is we want a win-win attitude among people in any place, society, school, in the community, wherever. So win-win situation. This is also available in your study guide, so please go through. And then moving on, discuss the negative consequences of substance use. Everybody knows what we are talking about. If you are talking about substance use, it can be alcohol, can be drugs, and so forth. What are the negative consequences? Do they have positive consequences? If you are talking about alcohol, what is likely to happen if somebody is drunk? If somebody gets drunk, the person will act weirdly, might even cause other problems, like, for example, if the person is driving under the influence of alcohol or under the influence of drugs, a person might cause accident, a person might lose his life, a person might endanger the lives of others, etc. So look into that, go into details. Some of these things, some of this information that I'm presenting to you are things that you see on daily basis in your community, in your surrounding. It's not something that you have to scratch your head about it, but it's something that you see on daily basis. And you talk about it. Now you connect that to what is in the study guide and what you see on daily basis when it comes to the negative consequences of substance use. Very important. But remember, that brings us back to the verb, to the action verb, discuss. Quite important. Okay, moving on. Explain how one prevents the spread of HIV. I always say, sometimes we think, no, the issues of HIV/AIDS has reached its limit. It is saturated. It's common. So it is expired. The information is not necessary anymore. No, this is not the way. I always make a reference, or I always refer people back and say, okay, look at the young kids that are just being born. They need this information. They don't know what is HIV/AIDS. If you are grown and you are exposed, you know already the ways and methods and skills that you can utilize to prevent from getting HIV/AIDS. The young generation that is just coming on board don't have the information. We should not take it as, okay, we have been speaking about HIV/AIDS. Everybody is aware. The young ones really need information. Therefore, you should be able to explain this also to your learners as a teacher to be, to make sure that they get all the necessary information. Okay, so therefore, the good news is that if you're an adult, then you know how to prevent the spread of HIV/AIDS. So pass it on to the young generations, to the upcoming generation, to the young kids in your school, in your community. So you should have this and be able to answer this question fairly in an exam or in an assignment. Okay, moving on. Discuss the values that should be taught to children. When we were growing up, there was a saying that said, it takes a village to bring up a child. I believe this perhaps is normal. It's normal being utilized because, I don't know, democracy, too much freedom and too much democracy, where you cannot even talk about somebody's child. You will end up in the court. Who are you that you want to bring up my child on my behalf, in my presence? And, the abolishment of corporal punishment also, these are the issues. But I'm not saying we should bring back corporal punishment. What I'm saying is those days, things were like that. But it doesn't mean now that after democracy, we should let our children to be loose and do whatever they want because they have the rights. But what we are saying is there should be values that should be taught to the children. So in your case now, what you have to do, you have to discuss the values that should be taught to the children. And I brought up that background just to make it open and make it more clear, and you should have that understanding and know, okay, so things were like this in the past and there's the way to go for the future. Okay? You should also be able to describe what is meant by healthy eating habits. Quite interesting. Healthy eating habits. You are not only learning these things as a teacher or because it's in this in the scheme of work, is in the syllabus, or you want to pass, as simple as that. But this is very important and beneficial, especially when it comes to healthy eating habits, to you as an individual, and also to instill it into the young minds of the kids, of the children, of your learners. Why is it necessary, or why is it necessary for them to eat healthy? We speak about not only junk foods that people should eat, because junk food, they aren't healthy, of course. We talk about eating vegetables, because according to World Health Organization, a person should have a balanced diet. And a balanced diet means 7 servings of fruits and vegetables on daily basis. So, which sometimes is practically impossible. But what we are saying is, you should have an understanding of what it means, the healthy eating habits. So that's why I'm bringing in these issues to expand your knowledge, which I know you have already, and perhaps you are presenting this in your classroom if you are a teacher. But what is important here is to give the description of what's meant by health eating habits. Okay, moving on, dear teachers and teachers to be. Describe the steps involved in drawing up a budget. Yeah, this is a must-have. I love this subject. I like life orientation, life skills, because it does not just teach you to pass well and graduate from IOL, but what it does, it also giving you the general knowledge, something that you can utilize as an individual, and then you get on the top of your game when it comes to living. General living. Here, what it means is you'll be able to describe the steps that are involved in drawing up a budget, because everybody needs a budget. Everybody needs to know how to draw up a budget on a monthly basis. So we should also teach this to our kids. Outline ways of saving money. More related to the budget. What are the ways of saving money? How do we save? What are the ways? So you should be able to say, to say how to save money. Provide the ways. Explain how to handle conflict positively. This is also important. As a teacher, you will be exposed to, or you have been already exposed to a lot of conflict. Conflict with the learners, conflict with the fellow teachers, conflict with the principal of the school, conflict with your head of department. If you are not a teacher yet, this is a must. You will go through this. Whether you are inviting it or you are not inviting it, it will come automatic. Maybe conflict with parents, but how to handle such conflict should it arise in a positive manner, positively, in a positive manner, how to handle it. It's very, very important to know this, because it will prepare you as a human being, as a teacher, to live in a community, in a school, in a society, because it won't be smooth. I'm warning you, it won't be a smooth environment wherever you find yourself. So this will definitely happen. Okay? So what is important is how to handle conflict positively. Moving on, dear teachers, explain how humans are different from animals. Are we related? Is there some relations? We are definitely different in many ways, but I know you are able to get some differences that you know as a person. But I would like to refer you to your modules, so you'll be able to know what are we talking about. That will be able to explain how humans are different from animals. Describe values that can be incorporated into the Namibian laws. We all know, I say, as a responsible citizen, you must expose yourself with legal documents in your country. We have the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia. You read it. You go through, you will expand your skills and knowledge, and when it comes to tackling this type of questions, it's not going to be a struggle for you. Okay, but of course, relate to what the study guide said also, but I don't want you to limit yourself to the study guide. I want you to expand that knowledge. I want you to expand those skills. I want you to go extra miles and make sure, even when you are going to present in a classroom, learners will be listening attentively and say, okay, I'm getting this. And in a way, you are contributing to the growth of the country, because you are preparing the young generation. We don't want half-cooked teachers to go. IOL does not want half-cooked teachers to go in the field and they won't perform. We want you to be ready, academically ready, to shoot the bullet, to make sure that you deliver in the classroom. So you should expose yourself to a lot of materials, not only limiting yourself to what is at your disposal, like, okay, I have a study guide, I don't have to get somewhere. But you should be able to expand your knowledge, you should be able to get all the necessary information, and then you are ready to go in the field, fully fledged. Okay, mention examples of negative social behaviors. Social behaviors. We live in a society with different people, with different upbringings, different backgrounds, from different homes, different families, with their unique problems. So, in this case, in this way, people don't behave the same. There's no way life won't even be fair if everybody's uniform, everybody's, generic. We are all behaving according to certain, even though I'm not saying we should be negative, but what I'm trying to say is what is practical in on the table. So what we are saying here, you must be able to mention examples of negative social behaviors. Moving on, give the advantages and disadvantages of loans. In a society where we find ourselves, or in financial status that we find ourselves, and also the way things are set, at one point we are likely to be forced to take loans, either from the banks or from any financial institution. So, but there are negatives and positives. There are pros and cons of loans. So you go back to the study guide, you'll be able to find out what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages. Of course, disadvantages, you might go in debts. You might be your things that you own, like cars and house, might be repossessed if you are unable to pay anymore. There are a lot of disadvantages and advantages. When you have a loan and there's something that you need, you can purchase it with a loan that you have. So you go into details and you'll be able to present, or you'll be able to give, to outline, to provide the advantages and disadvantages of loans. Explain how to develop emotional intelligence of learners. How to, okay? There's something was omitted today. Explain how to develop emotional intelligence of learners. This is needed by everyone. Everyone, you need emotional intelligence. But for the young ones, it should be developed. Because sometimes if you do not have, you are not assisted when it comes to explanation of what emotional intelligence is and how to handle it and so forth. As you grow, you might grow in that way, and it's very difficult to control your emotions if you did not learn how to develop emotional intelligence or how to control emotional intelligence. In this case, we are talking about the children in school, for example. So you must be able to explain how to develop emotional intelligence of learners. Explain the main domain of emotional intelligence. So we are in that area. So in this case, you need to give the main domains of emotional intelligence. Okay, moving on. Analyze how competence, performance, and professional conduct affect the teacher's teaching. You as a teacher, you bring in the elements of competence, performance, and professional. Why does the teacher need that? Because at the end of the day, what we want is teachers that are performing, teachers that are competing, teachers that are displaying their professional conduct. So how do all those three elements contribute to the effective teaching of a particular teacher, of an individual teacher? For you, how do those aspects affect or contribute to your teaching? But remember, if you go back to the verb, to the action verb, we are talking about analyze. Analyze. Remember, that's a very crucial word, and it requires your full participation because you are analyzing. It's a certain skill. It's a certain level, highest level of Bloom taxonomy. So please, you must make sure that you adhere to that and you give an intellectual and professional answer. Discuss how learners should follow school rules. Discuss how learners should follow. If there are no school rules, I wonder how the school would look like. It would be catastrophic. It would be chaos. It would be disruption because, everybody is free to do whatever they want, but if there is control, then definitely the learners are going to behave according to the set school rules. Explain the negative consequences of ignoring values, laws, and rules. If rules are set, I have spoken about the Constitution of the Republic of Namibia. It's there, and there are rules. And as responsible, law-abiding citizens of the land of the brave, you need to adhere to the rules and regulations, laws, and values in our society, because there are definitely consequences. So we are talking about negative consequences here. So you must be able to explain what are the negative consequences of ignoring values in your society, laws, and rules. When you were growing up, sometimes the parent will tell you, you are not allowed to do this, but you cannot question why. You can't do that. You just have to adhere and respect that. Luckily now, in terms of democracy, there is a Constitution of the Republic of Namibia, and there are codes, there are laws that we need to adhere to. Should we not, then the consequences is there. Okay, go back to your study guide and you should be able to explain what are these negative consequences that we are referring to here. Ladies and gentlemen, you should be able to identify precaution measures to prevent teenage pregnancy. So this is general. You might not find it into your books, or you might find it in your study guide, yes, of course. But what are the precaution measures that can be employed or utilized to prevent teenage pregnancies? So you hear in schools, certain regions of Namibia, there is a higher rate of teenage pregnancies. But there should be ways to prevent that from happening. And I think as we speak, different ministries, can be the Ministry of Health and can be the Ministry of Education, the government at large, there are also agencies, there are also organizations in the country. For example, Namibia Planned Parenthood Association, the Ministry of Youth, they are trying to give education to the people or to the young children to prevent, to make sure that higher rate of pregnancies are reduced, because there is a policy in the Ministry of Education that allows pregnant learners to go to school until the last stage before they give birth, and then soon after they have given birth there is a period of time. But okay, the policies allowed that to happen, but it does not say they should fall pregnant. So now here our focus is you should be able to identify precaution measures to prevent teenage pregnancies. Okay, there are some general issues that you should also look at. You might not find them in the books, but it's relevant in the subject of life orientation, life skills. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, you should be able to look at the crime in our country, or crime in general, corruption, which is also rampant. You talk about self-confidence. Where does it fit? How it should be featuring in your book, or in your question paper, in your assignment. So these are the issues that you should acquaint yourself with, regardless of them absent in your study guide. I know you will call me, I cannot find crime here in my book. No, expose yourself. You should have that curiosity to read the newspapers, explore the net, see, acquaint yourself with the current affairs in your own country. Bullying, talk about bullying, this is also quite common, can be cyberbullying on the internet. We talk about physical bullying in the school. So as a teacher, you should be prepared to know all this and to know how to solve these kind of problems, to make sure that learners are living a better life or in a better environment. that's not going to attract, to push them out of school, to drop out because there's bullying taking place at school and so forth. So you must also be able to know how to solve problems in general as a teacher. You know, you should have that creativity of solving problems that your learners are facing on a daily basis. I have spoken about this already. Competence, performance, and professional conduct of a teacher. What are we talking about? Time management is also very important. To start with, you as a teacher, you must be exemplary, coming to school on time, so that you can set examples to the learners to be on time. Because if you are always late, coming to school at 9 o'clock when the school is opened already at 8 o'clock, what are we portraying? What are we displaying? What do we want learners to do if we are not setting the standards? Ladies and gentlemen, dear teachers, principals, head of departments, and teachers, aspiring teachers to be, we come to the end of the presentation. What I would like to tell you is, please prepare thoroughly for examination or for assignments. You are required to revise all the units that are in your study guide. And once more, I don't want you to miss that. Go back, please go back to the action verbs. You should have an understanding of each verb. I would like to emphasize that point. You should have an understanding of each verb, and please answer precisely what's asked, because once you've mastered the verbs, so the action verbs, you'll be able to answer what is required or what is asked, but not the other way around. You should utilize the experience as a teacher, and please do not leave any question unattended. You know, if you've been teaching, you should have a lot of experience. Some of you have been teaching for some years. So utilize that when you are approaching the questions, and it should be in your mind that, okay, this is the way to go. And make no mistake, be it in an assignment or in a question, exam, do not leave any question unattended. Please don't leave any question unattended. Make an attempt. You never know, you might get it right. There's no such a thing like the question is difficult. It doesn't exist. Wherever there is a wish, there will always be a way. All the best of luck. My mobiles is 0811480977, or you can call me on my other mobile is 0812531801. My email address is t_, please take note. You have to send students have to send emails. Send an email. Also, if because you know, if you put your question or your issues on, in black and white, it's easier, and I will be able to give you a detailed answer. But you want to call or quote hours and so forth, yeah, but there is an email, t_shikukumo@yahoo.co.uk. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening, and prepare yourself, and best of luck in your academic area. Thank you.